Hello everyone! Today we'll be reviewing the PXN P5. I have reviewed one of their controller previously, the P50L, and I'm excited to see how this one holds up. The P5 looks a lot like an Xbox controller, and the back is very similar to another brand we know. But when you hold it, you'll notice that the grips are thinner than the Xbox controller, especially around this area. And here's a direct comparison. The Xbox controller is a bit bulkier than the PXN. If I had to compare it with another controller, I'd say that it feels very similar to the Beitong Asura 2 Pro Plus. And here's a comparison with the Vader 4 Pro. The back button layout is identical to the Vader 4 Pro. Even the switch for changing the connection modes. The face buttons are nicely polished, and this is very good because the travel is also super smooth. You won't feel any plastics rubbing when you press these buttons. These buttons uses rubber membranes with a decent resistance, and they don't sink flush with the shell. The analog sticks are entirely made of plastic, and the controller has anti-friction rings. The stick touches the edges where the rings are, so there is no internal restriction on this controller. The Dpad has mechanical switches, and it's a disc Dpad with a nice center pivot. The start, select, and home buttons feels a bit hard. We'll see that in the tension tests. The shutter buttons are easy to press, and the Hall effect triggers are very smooth. And enabling the trigger locks will only stop the triggers. It doesn't have a digital micro switch. The back buttons have a good resistance, and even the angle of the buttons is a straight copy of the flydigi controllers. Testing on a Nintendo Switch, it cannot wake up the console. And when testing the gyro, I noticed a strange behavior. After a while, the gyro turns back to normal. But when you turn this controller on, it seems that the gyro will take an extra time to calibrate itself. Did you see that? It only happens in the first seconds when you turn the controller on, and after a while it turns back to normal. And And I'm happy to see that the back buttons here are easy to map with a button combination. This is something that you cannot do on the flydigi controllers. And there's also a turbo mode. On PC, you can change the connection modes by holding Start and Select. There's X input and D input. If you change the switch to the switch mode, you have to reconnect the controller to access the switch input. The LED will be red. For some reason, my PC did not detect the controller in this mode. If you hold the function button and press L3, you'll enable the mouse mode. It lets you control the mouse. But this mode is only available with a wired connection. You cannot use it wirelessly even with the dongle, which beats the purpose of a mouse mode. Testing the analog sticks, the dead zone in the center is pretty small. There is no cardinal snapping, and the circularity is not perfect. You can hold L3 and R3 to enable the no dead zone mode. And you can hold L3, R3 and press the function button to enable a perfect circularity. The stick resolution is also good with 500 steps. The Dpad is pretty good, the diagonals are easy to hit. And the input is consistent. And the sensor pivot is pretty good too. The turbo speed can be adjusted. And the macros are also available on PC mode too. The trigger has a small dead zone. And when you enable the trigger lock, it behaves like a digital button. And then we have a smartphone app called PXN Nexus. It is a simple app with extra configurations. Here you can remap the buttons, configure macros, change the joystick settings such as curves and dead zones, change the vibration settings, and the trigger dead zones. You can also test the buttons in real time. Moving to the teardown, we have 6 screws on the back. Here's a look at the back shell. On the main board, we have a sticker here to prevent interference from the Hall effect triggers. The switches for the back buttons seems good. And let's check this battery. Here we have 1000 milliamps of capacity. On the other side of the board, here's the membranes and contacts for the face buttons. The triggers are well built with a metal pivot. And the Dpad uses dome switches. The sticks are K-Silver Hall effect sticks. It could also be a TMR stick, but I'm not sure. The face button layout is fixed, and the D-pad has an interesting design. This was already tested on Gamepad LA, and we have 2 models here, the P5 and the P5 8K. The one that I have is the P5. What's impressive is that the 8K version has only 1.4 milliseconds with a wired connection. This makes it the fastest controller right now, beating even the GameSir Cyclone 2. On my final thoughts, this controller offers an amazing value. It has 4 back buttons that are very easy to remap and program macros. The sticks, D-pad and face buttons are great. There's multiple connection modes. It has low latency and a smartphone app. For the price of $30, this is a pretty good deal. The only con that I could think of is having membranes for the face buttons. But can you even complain about membrane buttons in a controller of this price? It doesn't seem fair to me. And that's it for today's review. I'll leave the links for this controller in the description of the video, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.